This story is titled, "She's Not Even That Sick." My husband scoffed while I was in chemo. He was busy texting his ex. I didn't say a word. But 6 months later, I walked into the hospital, looking healthier than ever, with divorce papers and a surprise guest. I always thought that when you get cancer, your whole world stops. That everyone around you freezes in place, holding their breath along with you. That your husband of 12 years would at least look up from his phone when the doctor says stage 2 breast cancer. But Mike, 38M, just sat there, thumbs tapping away at his screen, while I, 36F, tried to process the words that had just shattered my universe. The doctor was still talking, something about treatment plans and survival rates. But all I could focus on was the soft click of Mike's texting. "We want to start chemotherapy as soon as possible," Dr. Roberts said, her kind eyes fixed on my face. "Mrs. Collins, do you have a good support system at home?" Before I could answer, Mike finally glanced up. "She'll be fine. It's not even that advanced, right? People beat this all the time." Then immediately back to his phone, a small smile playing at the corners of his mouth. That smile. I'd seen it before, usually when he was texting someone specific. Someone whose name I'd spotted on his phone screen months ago but had chosen to ignore, Rachel. His ex from college who had mysteriously reappeared in his life 6 months earlier. "Actually," I said, my voice steadier than I felt, "my sister Kelly is moving in to help out during treatment." I hadn't discussed this with Kelly yet, but I knew she would come. Unlike my husband, my sister understood what family meant. Mike's head snapped up. "Wait, what? We don't need a..." "Mrs. Collins needs all the support she can get," Dr. Roberts interrupted firmly. "Chemotherapy is an intensive treatment. She'll need help with daily tasks, emotional support, and someone to accompany her to appointments." I watched my husband's face darken. He hated when Kelly came around. She had always seen right through him, right through our supposedly perfect marriage. As we left the hospital, he finally pocketed his phone. "You're being dramatic," he muttered. "Getting Kelly involved, making this into some big thing." I didn't respond. Instead, I watched his phone light up with another message, watched that familiar smile flicker across his face as he read it. And in that moment, something inside me, something that had been dying a slow death for years, finally flatlined. That night, as I lay awake planning how to tell Kelly about my diagnosis, I made myself a promise. I would survive this. Not just the cancer. All of it. The first round of chemo hit me hard. I spent hours in the bathroom, clutching the toilet bowl, while Mike complained about the medical bills. "Do you know how much this is costing us?" he'd say, pacing outside the door. "Our savings are getting drained." I wanted to remind him that this wasn't exactly my choice, but I was too busy throwing up. Every time I brought up Rachel, he had the same response. "She's just helping me deal with all this. You know how stressful this is for me." For him. As if he was the one losing his hair, the one spending nights shivering despite 3 blankets, the one watching clumps of hair come out in the shower. That night, I tried one last time to talk to him. He was sitting on our bed, the bed where we'd spent 12 years together, where we'd whispered dreams about growing old together, where he'd once held me all night when I had the flu and kissed my forehead telling me everything would be okay. "Mike," I said softly, "I need you. I'm scared." He barely looked up from his phone. "You're being dramatic again. The doctor said your prognosis is good." Click went his thumbs on the screen. I watched him smile at whatever message he'd received and remembered how he used to smile at me that way. The memory hit me like a physical pain. Worse than the nausea. Worse than the bone-deep fatigue. I crawled into bed beside him, feeling like a stranger in my own marriage. At 3 a.m., I woke up to the sound of his phone buzzing on the nightstand. Mike was snoring softly beside me. I'd never checked his phone before, not in 12 years of marriage. I trusted him. But something in me had changed along with those cells in my breast. My hands trembled as I typed in his password. Still my birthday, though he'd forgotten it this year. The messages from Rachel loaded, and my world crumbled all over again. "How's the wife doing?" "Still milking it. She's not even that sick, and I'm stuck paying for all these treatments. Per baby. When can you come over?" "Soon. She's usually knocked out after chemo. I'll tell her I'm working late." My hero, taking care of a sick wife. But you deserve to be happy too. I just can't believe I have to deal with this right now. Why couldn't this happen after I figured out how to leave? I read the messages 3 times, each word burning itself into my brain. 12 years. 12 years of loving him, of building a life together, of thinking we were a team. And here he was, complaining about having to deal with my cancer. I put his phone back, went to the bathroom, and threw up again. But this time, it wasn't from the chemo. In the mirror, I barely recognized myself. My hair was thinning, my face gaunt. I thought about all the times Mike had told me I was being dramatic about my symptoms, how he'd rolled his eyes when I was too tired to cook dinner, how he'd started spending more and more time at work. I wanted to wake him up, to scream, to throw his phone at his head. Instead, I did something else. I took pictures of those messages and sent them to myself. Then I crawled back into bed beside my husband. No, beside this stranger, and started planning. Cancer hadn't killed my marriage. It had just exposed what was already dead. 3 months into chemo, I hit rock bottom. My body was at war with itself, and I was losing on all fronts. That morning, I couldn't even make it to the bathroom without Kelly's help. My sister had taken a leave from work to care for me, while Mike was mysteriously busy at the office, more and more. I was lying in bed, too weak to hold my phone, when Mike came home early. The look on his face wasn't concern, it was annoyance mixed with something else. Resolution. "We need to talk," he said, standing at the foot of the bed like I was already a corpse he was afraid to approach. "While you're still, well, while you can still understand." My heart stopped. While I was still alive. That's what he meant. "Rachel and I have been together for 8 months, he continued, his voice eerily calm. "I was going to leave you before all this happened." He gestured vaguely at my sick body. "But then you got the diagnosis, and the timing wasn't right." I stared at him, my mouth dry from more than just the chemo. The timing wasn't right. My voice was barely a whisper. "Look, you should know the truth. Rachel's pregnant. 3 months along. We're going to be a family." The room started spinning. 3 months. While I was losing my hair, losing my strength, losing my dignity to this disease, he had been creating new life with her. "I've already found an apartment. Rachel thinks it's best if I move out now. Your sister's here anyway, and honestly, I can't watch this anymore. It's too depressing." Something snapped inside me. I grabbed the water glass from my nightstand, the only thing I could reach, and hurled it at him with strength I didn't know I still had. "Too depressing?" I screamed. "You're worried about being depressed? Have you already picked out my funeral outfit too? Already decided where to bury me?" He stepped back, water dripping from his expensive shirt. "See? This is exactly why." "Why what?" "Why you couldn't wait until I was dead. Did you think I'd give you my blessing? Tell you to go be happy with your pregnant mistress while I rot away?" Kelly burst into the room, drawn by my screaming. Her face went from concern to fury as she took in the scene. "Get out," she snarled at Mike. "Get out before I call the police." "I'm leaving anyway," he said, straightening his wet shirt. "I just thought she deserved to know the truth before." He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't have to. Before I died. That's what everyone expected. That's what he was counting on. I watched him walk out of our bedroom, the room where I'd spent countless nights fighting for my life, while he was busy starting a new one. My whole body was shaking, but not from weakness this time. From rage. "Kelly," I whispered as she held me. "I need you to help me with something. I'm not dying. Not yet. Not until I make him pay for this." My sister stroked my bald head, tears running down her face. "Whatever you need. We'll destroy him together." As my body shook with sobs, a plan started forming in my mind. Mike thought he had timed everything perfectly, waiting for his sick wife to die while his new family bloomed. But he had made one crucial mistake. He had told me the truth while I was still breathing. Something strange happened during my next month in the hospital. My body started fighting back. Maybe it was the rage keeping me alive, or maybe the treatment was finally working, but my blood counts began improving. Dr. Roberts called it remarkable progress. The hospital became my war room. Between treatments, I lay in my bed plotting, while Kelly brought me updates about Mike's new life. He'd moved in with Rachel, started telling everyone at his law firm that his poor, sick wife had given him her blessing to move on. He was playing the grieving husband who'd found love again, the perfect victim narrative. What he didn't know was that every sympathetic colleague who came to visit me was another witness to what he'd done. I recorded their reactions when I told them about his announcement of Rachel's pregnancy during my worst chemo day. Their horror when they learned he'd moved out while I was still undergoing treatment. The way his perfect victim narrative crumbled when they saw the reality. "Your hair is starting to grow back," Kelly noticed one morning, running her hand over the soft fuzz on my head. "And it's coming in darker." I touched my head, looking in the mirror. She was right. My body was changing, transforming. I hardly looked like the same woman Mike had left for dead. "Kelly," I said, a plan crystallizing in my mind. I need you to do something for me. Don't tell Mike about my improvement. If anyone from the firm visits, make sure they think I'm still at my worst. My sister's eyes lit up with understanding. Let him think he's safe, she said. Let him think he's got it all figured out. I nodded, a cold smile spreading across my face. He's so focused on his new family, he hasn't even checked my medical records. Hasn't asked a single doctor about my prognosis. The day I was discharged, I looked in the mirror again. My face had filled out, my eyes had their spark back, and the new growth of hair gave me an almost elfin look. I barely resembled the sickly woman Mike had abandoned. One more thing, I told Kelly as we left the hospital. I need you to help me find the best divorce lawyer in the city. Not just good, I want someone ruthless. Already done, Kelly smiled, pulling out a business card. Remember Angela from college? She specialized in high-conflict divorces. And when I told her your story, I looked at the card, remembering Angela's fierce determination in law school. Perfect. As we drove home, I thought about Mike's face when he told me about Rachel's pregnancy. How certain he'd been that I was dying. How perfectly he'd planned it all, or so he thought. You know what the best part is? I told Kelly, watching the hospital disappear in the rearview mirror. He's so convinced I'm at death's door, he hasn't even considered what happens to all our assets if I live. For the first time in months, I laughed. It felt good. It felt like healing. It felt like revenge. Angela was brilliant. Within days, she'd uncovered that Mike had been transferring money to a separate account, planning for his new life while I was supposedly dying. But his perfect plan had one massive flaw. He'd forgotten about my grandfather's house. The house that was solely in my name. The house where he'd parked his precious metallic blue Audi RS7. That car was his baby. He'd spent more time waxing it than he'd spent taking me to chemo. This color is discontinued, he'd bragged to everyone. They'll never make it again. He even had a special cover for it, while I shivered through nights of fever without an extra blanket. I waited until he was at work, then had the car towed to my grandfather's house. Kelly helped me move everything that was legally mine, which, thanks to Angela's research, turned out to be quite a lot. By evening, I was sitting in the living room of my grandfather's house, the paperwork spread across the coffee table, waiting. At 6:43 p.m., I heard his key in the lock. He'd kept his copy, of course. Probably planned to sell the house after my inevitable death. The look on his face when he saw me sitting there, healthy, alert, and very much alive, was everything I'd dreamed of. He stumbled back like he'd seen a ghost. What? How are you? Sitting in my own house. I finished for him. The house my grandfather left to me? Well, funny story, turns out cancer doesn't always win. But you knew that's what you were counting on, right? His eyes darted around the room, noticing the missing items. Then his face went pale. Where's my car? Of course. The car was his first concern. Safe. At my house. The one you're standing in right now, though not for long. I held up the divorce papers. You'll find everything's quite legal. My lawyer's very thorough. You can't, he started. Can't what? Live. Take what's mine. Tell everyone how you announced your mistress's pregnancy while I was vomiting from chemo. I stood up, stronger than I'd felt in months. Or maybe you mean I can't take your precious car? The one that got more attention than your dying wife. That car is mine. His face was turning red. I paid for it, with money from our joint account, while married to me, in a community property state. I smiled. Angela, my lawyer, she's really good at finding these details. Almost as good as she is at finding evidence of hidden bank accounts. He fell onto the sofa, his legs seeming to give out. You were supposed to die. I finished again. Sorry to disappoint. But don't worry, the car will be in good hands. I'm thinking of repainting it. Maybe pink. Since you won't be needing it anymore. You vindictive bitch, he whispered. No, Mike. I'm a survivor. Of cancer, and of you. I slid the divorce papers across the table. You have 24 hours to sign these and get your things out of my house. After that, everything inside becomes mine too. And if I don't sign, then Angela starts making calls. To the Bar Association, to your firm's ethics board, to your clients. Did you know it's an ethical violation to hide assets during divorce proceedings? Especially from a sick spouse? He stared at the papers, then at me. I saw the moment he realized he'd lost, not just his car, but his whole carefully constructed plan. You've changed, he said finally. Cancer does that. So does betrayal. I walked to the door and held it open. 24 hours, Mike. Oh, and tell Rachel congratulations on the pregnancy. I hope she knows what she's getting into. After storming out of my house, Mike jumped into his precious metallic blue Audi RS7 and sped to his office, his perfect facade finally cracking. I knew this because his paralegal, Janet, called me that evening. You need to hear this, she whispered into the phone. He's telling everyone you've gone crazy from the chemo, that you're having delusions. He's in his office right now, screaming about how he'll never let you keep his car and threatening to destroy you in court. I smiled, putting the phone on speaker so Kelly and Angela could hear. Mike's voice carried through the phone as he ranted in the background. That bitch thinks she can take my car? I don't care if she's sick. I'll make her regret this. The judge will see she's unstable. Chemo's fried her brain. Angela started taking notes, her smile growing wider with each thread he unknowingly provided us. That's when my security app pinged, motion detected at my grandfather's house. The security camera footage showed Mike pulling up in his Audi. He got out, looked around furtively, then tried to open the garage door. When that didn't work, he actually tried to pick the lock. The high-definition camera caught every second of his attempted break-in, including him kicking the door in frustration. That's when the police cruiser turned the corner. The officers had been monitoring the property since I'd filed a complaint about Mike's earlier threats. They caught him red-handed, trying to break into my garage. The look on his face when they approached, priceless. Sir, step away from the property, one officer commanded. This is my car. Mike shouted, his composure completely gone. She stole it from me. She's crazy from the chemo. She's trying to ruin me. The officers were unmoved. Sir, the vehicle is registered to this address, and there's a pending legal dispute. You need to leave the car here until the court makes its decision. You don't understand. Mike was almost crying now. That's a limited edition color. She's probably going to destroy it just to spite me. The police made him leave the Audi at my house and had him call Rachel for a ride. As he waited on the curb, he started texting me. You want to play games? Fine. Should have done everyone a favor and died like you were supposed to. That car is mine. You're too sick to even drive it. I'll tell the judge you're mentally unfit. Who'll believe a cancer patient? Would have been easier if you'd just given up like a good little victim. Each message was better than the last. Evidence of his true nature, his real feelings about my illness. Kelly photographed everyone while Angela added the security footage to our file. He really thinks he can win this, Kelly marveled, watching the video of his attempted break-in for the 10th time. Men like Mike always think they'll win, Angela said, adding the screenshots to our growing evidence. They're so used to being in control, they can't handle losing it. That's when they make mistakes. 2 hours later, Rachel picked him up in her sensible Honda Civic. The security camera caught him looking back at his beloved Audi, rage distorting his features. He actually blew a kiss to the car before getting into Rachel's passenger seat. The court date was set for the following week. Mike's lawyer tried to paint me as mentally unstable, claiming the chemo had affected my judgment. But we had everything documented. The texts, the security footage, the police report, the witnesses from his office. Most damning of all? The timestamp on his hidden bank account's creation, 1 day after my cancer diagnosis. As I sat in the courthouse waiting for our hearing to begin, I touched my newly growing hair and smiled. Mike had always said that car was his most precious possession. He was about to learn just how precious it was to lose something you love. The courtroom was packed. Word had spread through Mike's law firm about the hearing, and it seemed like everyone had come to watch. Mike sat at the defendant's table, Rachel beside him, her hand protectively over her now visible pregnancy. He still couldn't stop glancing back at the parking lot where his precious Audi was parked. I'd driven it to court deliberately, knowing it would get under his skin. Angela was magnificent. She started by playing the security footage of Mike trying to break into my garage, his meltdown in front of the police. Then came the text messages, every cruel word he'd sent about wishing I had died, about the cancer not working fast enough. But it was the medical records that broke him. Angela had subpoenaed everything, including the dates of Rachel's prenatal appointments. They matched perfectly with my chemo sessions. Every time I was getting poison pumped into my veins, fighting for my life, Mike had been at OB/GYN appointments, watching his new baby on ultrasound screens. Your Honor, Angela said, her voice carrying through the silent courtroom. While my client was losing her hair, losing weight, losing hope, her husband was starting a new family. While she was fighting for her life, he was shopping for engagement rings with his mistress. Mike shifted uncomfortably. Rachel's face had gone pale. Would you like to explain to the court? Angela continued, turning to Mike. Why you told your dying wife about Ms. Rachel's pregnancy on the day she had her worst chemotherapy reaction? The day the doctors had to admit her for severe dehydration. I wanted to be honest. Mike stammered. Honest. I couldn't help myself. I stood up. You wanted to be honest? Then let's be honest, Mike. Tell everyone how you laughed when I couldn't keep food down. Tell them how you complained about the medical bills while I was throwing up. Tell them how you told Rachel I was milking it when I couldn't walk to the bathroom by myself. Rachel's head snapped up. You said she was exaggerating, she whispered to Mike. You said the treatments weren't that bad. Oh, he said a lot of things. I continued, pulling off my scarf. My new hair was growing in, short but healthy, like my renewed spirit. He said I was crazy from the chemo when I confronted him about the affair. He said I was being dramatic when I cried from pain. He told his friends I was giving him permission to move on, while I was fighting for every breath in the hospital. Rachel suddenly stood up, her face green. One of Mike's colleagues from the firm reached out to steady her, but she pushed past them, running for the door. Rachel, wait. Mike called after her, but she was gone. Mr. Collins, the judge's voice was ice cold. In my 30 years on the bench, I have rarely seen such calculated cruelty. You abandoned your wife during cancer treatment, hid assets, and then attempted to paint her as mentally unstable when she discovered your deception. Mike's colleagues in the gallery were shaking their heads. Janet, his paralegal, was openly crying. I saw his senior partner leaning over to whisper something to another partner, something that made Mike's face go white when he overheard it. The car, the house, and all contested assets are awarded to Mrs. Collins, the judge continued. Furthermore, I'm referring this case to the State Bar Association for ethics review. Mike slumped in his chair, defeated. His perfect world was crumbling. Rachel had fled, his colleagues were watching him fall, and his precious car was mine. One more thing, I said, loud enough for everyone to hear. I'm not dying, Mike. The cancer's in remission. I'm going to live a long, happy life, driving your favorite car, living in my grandfather's house, and telling everyone exactly who you really are. The look on his face was worth every moment of pain I'd endured. As I walked out of the courtroom, head held high, I heard one of his colleagues say, to think we believed him when he said she was crazy. The only crazy thing was staying with him as long as she did. I smiled. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just winning. It's making sure everyone sees the truth. The restraining order was just icing on the cake. 1 kilometer. That's how far Mike had to stay away from me and my grandfather's house. Which meant he had to take the long way to work every day, knowing his beloved Audi was sitting in my garage, its metallic blue paint gleaming in the morning sun. Janet kept me updated on the office drama. Every morning, someone would leave printouts of cancer survival stories on his desk. His coffee mug mysteriously got replaced with one that read, "World's Worst Husband." When he tried complaining to HR, they reminded him that workplace harassment policies didn't cover factual statements about public court records. He lost a major client today. Janet texted me one evening. They said they couldn't trust someone with such questionable ethics. He threw a stapler at his office wall. I smiled, running my fingers through my growing hair. It was coming in curly now, a completely different person looking back at me in the mirror. Good. I felt like a different person. The final straw came when the senior partners called him in. They'd received too many complaints, too many clients requesting different attorneys. His reputation was toxic. He wasn't technically fired. They gave him the option to resign gracefully. He took it. Rachel stayed with him, from what I heard. Had the baby. Moved to some suburb where nobody knew their story. Sometimes I wonder if she lies awake at night, wondering if he'll do the same to her someday. Wondering if she'll be strong enough to survive it if he does. Kelly thinks I should feel bad about essentially destroying his career. You won, she says. Maybe it's time to let go of the anger. But here's the thing about anger. Sometimes it's justified. Sometimes it's necessary. My anger kept me alive when the cancer was trying to kill me. My anger gave me strength when Mike was trying to break me. My anger protected me when he tried to paint me as crazy. I don't need to forgive him. I don't need to be the bigger person. He bet everything on me dying, and I lived instead. He gambled with my life, my heart, and my dignity, and he lost it all. Every morning, I drive his precious car to my weekly checkups. The cancer is still in remission. I'm still here, still breathing, still winning. Yesterday, I finally did what I'd been threatening to do. I had the Audi repainted. Hot pink. The exact shade of the breast cancer awareness ribbons. When I drive it around town now, I don't think about Mike anymore. I think about other women fighting their own battles, against cancer, against betrayal, against men who bet on their death. I think about how sometimes survival isn't just about beating the disease in your body, but also the disease in your life. Mike lost everything trying to get rid of me. But me? I gained something invaluable, the knowledge that I'm stronger than both cancer and him. And that's a remission that will last forever.